What is it, boy? What is it? What you got going on there, boy? You got something? Well, what is it? Over there? You want me to go over there? What's over there? All right, I'll go with you. What the heck is he so up and fired up about? Is the barn on fire? Is there trouble at the mill? Oh, no, that's not it. Why, my stars and garters. It's the new Camry Hybrid. No wonder he's so excited, eh? Camry, Camry, out in the grass I see you there. And this Camry has the blue logo. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It means it's a hybrid, the Camry Hybrid, the 2022 XLE Camry Hybrid. And it is a dark blue color whose name escapes me for the moment. It will return. And it's an interesting thing if you've been following the life of the Camry over its considerable period of time that it's been in the United States and also built in the United States, is it gets bigger and bigger and roomier and more comfortable and more refined. And then they did great things to it. They have a performance version with a V6 and a TRD package. But my favorite is right in front of you, the hybrid version, because this thing does amazing things with a gallon of gas. It's very, very efficient for a mid-sized car that really pushes the boundaries on being a full size. It's what you want if you want comfort and fuel economy in one car. Not a small feat. But best of all, it's a Camry. Camry. Let's look beneath its doors. Someone has opened the mighty clamshell door known as the hood in your world to reveal the Camry Hybrid's power providing system. And if you look at it very carefully, if you are familiar with the breed, you'll notice that it bears a more than passing resemblance to the RAV4. What am I going to do with that drone? With the RAV4 hybrid, it's because it's pretty much the same thing. There's a few little tweaks here and there, but overall they are both the same engine. The non-electrical part, the ICE part, if you will, the internal combustion engine, is a 2.5 liter dynamic force engine. Now, it doesn't actually say in the specs that this is a dynamic force engine, but I say it is. And I say it is because of several things, but mainly this 0.16 oil requirement. I know that's just a thing that these dynamic force engines require. And it's the dynamic force is an amazing family of engines because they are noted for their high thermal efficiency, which means overall efficiency. It's a really good Atkinson cycle gasoline engine. Inline 4, of course, and then it is coupled with all these electric goods over here. Now the engine by itself puts out 176 horsepower and 167 foot-pounds of torque. Now over here though, some of the electrical components that you're seeing down there, there's a motor down there somewhere. Maybe further down towards the bottom where the axles are, but that is an 88 kilowatt electric motor that puts out 118 horsepower and 149 foot-pounds of torque. So in combination, and I don't know how the math works as far as the combination, but overall you have an output of 208 horsepower, which is perfectly good for a mid-size sedan like this. I mean, this ain't no race car, but what it is incredibly efficient. The EPA, overall EPA, the middle of the road EPA rating, in other words, the highway and city combined, is 46 miles per gallon. Now there's, I would venture to tell you that most compact cars can't get close to that. That's remarkable. And once you drive the car, you realize that, man, this works just fine. And on top of all that, you have a really interesting system in that it is proven to be very, very reliable over time. There's all kinds of, the older generation Camry hybrids, for example, a lot of people grabbed them up and used them as taxi cabs and put hundreds of thousands of miles on them. It's a really reliable system. The transmission is a continuously variable transmission, but it's not a CVT like you're used to. It is actually much more focused on the electrical side of things, to the point that it has very little internally that you would recognize as a CVT transmission. It's mostly electric motor type components, and that's why the system works so smoothly and so beautifully the way it does. And it also means that if for some reason you have a breakdown of your electrical side of things, you can't just motor around on the engine by itself, because the transmission is dependent on electric power. And speaking of which, the battery system on this sucker is a lithium-ion unit. It puts out 650 volts. I don't have any more information on it, which is a little unusual for Toyota, but that's what's behind the rear seat that powers the electrical components that you recharge either from a generator from the electric motors during regenerative braking, or it gets recharged by the engine itself using a generator on the engine itself. So you got all this stuff going on to ultimately make for a very efficient package. And you got to remember something else about all Toyota hybrids, is they've been doing this longer on a large scale mass production than anybody else, and they do it really, really well. They're hard to, you can't do better than that. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful competition coming from especially people like Hyundai, who's developing a very, very sophisticated hybrid system of their own that's remarkably similar to this one. But they're coming along really nicely with some great miles per gallon numbers and things like that. But the Toyotas, they kind of rule the roost in my opinion. And what else is good about this car other than its incredibly nice hybrid drivetrain? Let's have a look then, shall we? In the back of this car we have a hood also, except here we call it a trunk to denote the fact that it is at the back of the car as opposed to the hood, which is at the front of the car. And this is our Camry Hybrid trunk. In it you'll find all kinds of room. This is a big trunk, friends and neighbors. Very, very, very roomy. And look at here, look up here. If I do this right here, I can open one of the seat backs forward. In fact, there's a 60-40 situation right in front of you. And you can put those down and greatly increase the length of items you can put in this trunk. But this is one of the largest trunks I've seen in a while. It's a big, roomy, wonderful thing. And if you look down in here, I sense there's a dog near me, so stand by. Underneath here we have all your, if I didn't know better, I'd say we have all the things we need here to change a flat. And is there a spare? Is there? Is there? Yes. our friend the temporary spare. See, this is like a practical vehicle. Oop, wait, hang on. This is a practical vehicle in that if you have a flat, you can actually put on the temporary spare tire and keep going and get to work or whatever you need to do without waiting for the auto club or using one of them cans of amazing flat fix-it crappio, whatever it is. But that is I'll somewhere down in here, right about here, I'm gonna put the capacity of that trunk, 'cause that's a humdinger. The only fault I have with this trunk, as near as I can tell, and I'm sure if it's not this way, I will be told by someone somewhere, there is no external way to get into this trunk easily. You have to either use the button on the interior or use the key fob. I will demonstrate the key fob at this time. Hold this down, and look at there. Just like it's electric, but it's not. It's just spring-loaded. As are we all spring-loaded. But there you go. Now talk about a practical sedan. And if we're fortunate enough to have lots of rear seat room, I'm looking at road trip car. I mean, look at this. You have room inside, you got a nice big trunk, and you get somewhere in the mid-40s to even me a little better than that on the highway for outstanding range and very economical operation. Sounds kind of perfect for a road trip car, Let us look on. Here we have your wonderful instrument cluster, but was ist los? Ah, Manroni. So let's have a little look here. As you can see, this is the XLE hybrid sedan, not the XSE that somebody said it was at the beginning, who I think was suffering from some kind of a drone, what do you call it, drone withdrawal? I don't know. I'm looking for some kind of excuse, but it is an XLE trim line. There is an XSE, by the way, which is interesting in and of itself because it's got some cool stuff on it, but so does this. So anyway, you have your hybrid synergy drive system, your 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, and all the things I've already told you about. And this one also comes with a navigation system and all kinds of goodies like that. And ultimately, what do you pay for this marvel? Our bottom line sticker with $1,025 processing and handling fee. It used to be delivery, remember? I don't know why they call it now, is $38,369. Not bad for a sedan that's as comfortable as this and has all kinds of neat stuff on it, like leather trimmed heated front seats. For those that like leather trimmed heated front seats, this is a place for you to come. But anyway, I should get back to the instrument cluster, shouldn't I? Yeah. If I did not know any better, I'd say we're back to the instrument cluster on our Toyota Camry Hybrid. And it's all, here's an interesting thing. It's something you don't see every day. It's all the gauges are mechanical gauges. Very interesting, including this little fella over here. Now, instead of having a tachometer, attack, it has a charge echo power thing. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if it drops down in the blue, you need to charge. You need to floor it and like charge ahead. Because no, I'm lying. That's not what it means at all. That means when you're in charging mode. As far as the lithium metal hydride battery pack is receiving charge, primarily from regenerative braking, when you're either coasting or putting on the brakes. It's putting power back in to your battery pack. Echo up here is when it's running off of, there's very little introduction of the gasoline power plant into the drive system. It's mostly done electrically. And you're doing it, you're in a zone of economy, meaning that it's at an area of high efficiency. And if you go up here to power, that's what it sounds like. That's when you're on your power. And that's primarily when the gas engine is like giving it some welly and all that. So that's cool. I don't know if you'd prefer to have a tachometer. Well, you're out of luck. But who knows? You know, the thing about tachometers in hybrids is, or anything that has a hybrid drivetrain plus a continuously variable transmission, it's the numbers that are coming up on your tachometer can be a little confusing because there's so much going on. You're getting power from the electric motor, and anyway, so it's really not a great loss to not have a tachometer on a vehicle of this nature. So on your right, you have your regular speedometer and your nice, big, huge, honking gas gauge, which doesn't move much, which is nice. And I think that's right. One of the reasons they made it so big is they point out the fact that it's not moving around much, is it? No, because you're being efficient, because you're getting good mileage. And in the middle, we have our trip computer. And right now we're set on an eco type of situation. So if we move through this, we got guidance, digital speedometer, and our fuel economy breakdown, which overall has been 42.7 miles per gallon. That's 90% with people driving it other than, well, it's probably 95% people driving it other than moi. How many miles we got on this thing? Hang on, there's trip B. Oh wow, 6273. So it's got over 6,000 miles on it. So I have put almost nothing into that overall average, but we'll see how it does after a week with me. So we go drop down one, and here we have driving support systems, and I don't even know what that means. Looks like a compass to me. I like compasses. Compasses are good. I'll go down to audio. Audio is off at the moment, but that would tell you your stations and all that good stuff. This is information on what's going on. At the moment, we are sitting still. So the drivetrain is not being powered by either the electric motor or the gasoline engine. It's just sitting here with the power on, which is being channeled through. It's real complicated if you get into the batteries in this car, as far as you have your lithium-ion battery pack that powers all the electrics as far as the motor, transmission, all that stuff. But you still have a 12-volt battery. And one of the things that 12-volt battery does on hybrids, and I found this out the hard way, was it powers the computer that powers the other electric motors. And so if you do have a dead 12-volt battery, your car is, you can't, well, why can't I just tap into that beautiful lithium-ion battery? It has all this power in it. Well, if the car's off, unless they've changed something in the last few years, you still have to have that 12-volt battery in order for everything else to work. It's not that big a deal. I mean, you still have to replace that battery pretty much normally when you replace a 12-volt battery. The good thing is the early Prius models of Toyota hybrids had a very small, it looked like a motorcycle battery actually. It was really small, and it would last it would last 4 years or 5, depending on, you know, what part of the country you live in, how cold it gets in the winter and how hot it gets in the summer. But I had a battery die on me after about 3 years, the 12-volt battery, and that car was inert without that 12-volt battery. And I thought there was something seriously wrong with the hybrid drive system or something other. No, it's the battery. You just got to replace that 12-volt battery. So that's what that is all about. In this case, it doesn't show anything having to do with the 12-volt battery, nor should it. It's just telling you how much charge you have left, which looks about 3/4 almost, half to 3/4 of our lithium-ion battery. And nothing's going on as far as driving the car at the moment. And here we go into, wait a minute, let's go back up a minute. We have other things. There's our tire pressures. Very nice. Wait, left front 34, 36 and 35. It looks like you're the low man on the totem pole there, pal. You better get properly pumped up so that you match the other tires. And we'll get fuel economy. Okay, what else? What else? Oh, here's all our systems. Pre-collision system, parking assist, blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert. All this good stuff. And you can press OK. To turn on some of these things off and on, you just press the OK button. Like rear cross traffic alert. Let me say, hang on there. Hang on. Wait a minute. Parking assist. And you can, oh, I have to go down to settings to make this do anything else, so. Oh, now it's on. Rear cross traffic alert was not on. No wonder I backed into that old lady. Oh, geez, that explains everything. Oh, good. That'll look good when my lawyer gets a hold of it. Okay, anyway, let's go back. Back. How do we go back? I want to go back. There we go. And there we go. Okay, now, what else do we have? We've been there. Let's go down into settings then. And this is where you can easily, from the steering column, adjust all these different things. Your lane, what are they calling it on this car? Lane departure warnings. I think it has your steering. I'll test that out further for you. Let's see. Wait a minute. Hang on. I got my Monroney right here. Right here. It should be under safety and convenience. Dynamic radar cruise control, departure alert with steering assist. Okay, so that does help because I haven't really tested this yet. That will determine whether or not the car will help you stay in your lane by actually taking over very briefly the electric power steering system and putting you back in your lane where you're supposed to be. Because we all know what happens when we have bad lane discipline. Yep, that's just what I'm saying. So anyway, you got that. You got your front collision stuff. You got your cruise control, your blind spot monitoring, your rear cross traffic alert, which I just turned on. You were here, remember? And rear cross, I don't know what that's for. That's for your, I think that's parking assist. Yes, parking assist. Oh, there's a heads up display. Is there really? Oh, I just turned it on. Oh my God. You know how I feel about those. Let's make it go away. Wish it to the cornfield. There we go. Okay. And there we have, I've encountered this several times. This particular thing here. I don't know what that is. I'm going to look that up and tell you sometime. But anyway, that's and there's your adjustment so you can change the settings of your lighting and things on the gauge cluster right there. So that's all that. Okay. So let's yeah, cross traffic alert. They really are. They're excited about the fact that I've put that back on. I'm going to leave that there because I always find it fascinating to watch the inner workings of the hybrid system. So let's move on over and see. Here's our good friend here, our primarily stack. Looks like I'm getting some flicker. Am I getting some flicker off of that? I hope I'm not flickering you. If I'm flickering you, that might upset you, and I don't want to do that. But anyway, that is our, hit the map setting here. And it's a very nice, clear, and it's a good size, this particular display. I am all for this, except for the flickering part, because I guess we got a frame rate issue. That's my fault, because I changed the frame rate on this particular camera to something I like better, but long story. Anyway, we have your climate control area here. This is your primary climate control. Let me see if I can get this out of here with it. I see so much reflection. There we go. There. Oh, that's beautiful. But anyway, you have your typical automatic system with your ability to adjust left and right zones. You can do them together or you can do them separately, as you may want. And down here we got, that's where your, how do I get that open there? Here we are. There's a USB. And RV, ROW. Oh, wow. That's where your cigarette lighter goes. I'm old enough to remember cigarette lighters and ashtrays on cars. Then they became 12-volt power supply areas. And here we have our charging system for our wireless charging for our cell phone. A very welcome thing on cars these days because, let's face it, you're always going to have your cell phone with you just about all the damn time. And actually this car is Android Auto and what's it called? Apple iCar. You know what it is. I'm an Apple guy, believe me. I haven't used a Windows computer probably this century. And here's your little area with your mask. That should be mandatory on all vehicles, but it's not. And this is wonderful stuff right here. It's one of my favorites because you got your heated right there for your front seats, leather seats, and then you have your ventilation. Nice, huh? I'm going to ventilate a little bit on account of it's warm. And a normal shifter, an absolutely normal shifter. Drive, neutral, park, reverse and park. And then you want to go to manual mode. You kick her over just like that, up and down, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 is where we bottom out. So that's what you get. You have your manual mode down there, and if you want to shift, you can use the stick to do that. There are no paddles on here, paddle free. But you do have your wonderful cruise control settings. Not the typical paddle Toyota system, which is disappearing more and more on all Toyota vehicles, but you got this little circular deal where you activate. This is your distance and your adaptive cruise control, how many car lengths you want to stay behind, and here's your do not deviate and go into the cornfield lane assist. This is for your mode for your radio and everything else. Speaking of modes, did I even mention the stunning number of modes we have here? We have Echo, which I'm on now. You have normal, and then you have sport. And then you also have EV mode. EV mode is ideal if you find yourself going to a drive-through anything, burger place, whatever, and you're going to be in line for a while. But just put it in eco mode because that way that will ensure that the engine basically stays off as long as the battery's got some juice to it. And over on the left side, this is what I was using to navigate. You see there? See, look what I'm doing there. I'm just messing with everything. I'm just making a living hell out of this poor little computer's life. And the car's just racing around in circles and everything. So anyway, that is it. It is not insanely complex like some vehicles. GM Sierra Denali Ultimate, for example. Very, very straightforward. You feel comfortable in this right away. And some might say, who came up with that? God, I hate that. It has been said, maybe. Anyway, it's more like a rent-a-car than some of the state-of-the-art. Oh, no, it's not a rent-a-car, guys. Rent-a-cars aren't this good. This is all part and parcel of your XLE package and of your Camry in general. And naturally, I don't know if you can see it, but under here we got this lovely blue LED lights, accents. It's going to look really pretty at night. But there we have your control center. Thank you for playing. As we move up stealthily, we reveal the Camry Hybrid's rear door. It's a pretty good sized door. We're not talking limousine here, but we're talking a very, very healthy size. Very easy for people to get in that may be larger of stature or just not as flexible as they were when they were 40 years younger. But there's a lot of leg room, as you can see. I have the front seat on the passenger side up a little bit. It's not all the way back, but it's back far enough for a fairly tall person. And I find it really a very nice space back here in terms of just overall room and comfort. Pretty good sized drive shaft tunnel, considering there is no drive shaft on this car running fore to aft, as it is a front driver. But you can get a Camry with all-wheel drive, in which case I imagine that that's probably where they run the drive shaft on that particular model. And now, if they ever make an all-wheel drive hybrid, which I don't think they have yet, they'll have a different bunch of packaging problems they'll have to deal with, because it won't have a drive shaft to worry about, but it will have a big electric motor that powers the rear wheels, and they'll have to figure out where to put that. But what's underneath this seat right here, I can feel the grill right there. You see that? There's a grill down here, right here. That's where your batteries are, and that's where your cooling exhaust comes out or goes in. I don't know. I think it's an intake, actually. But anyway, it's extremely important to keep these batteries at the right temperature, and all the like the RAV4 hybrids like that, and that you gotta, if you're an owner, you need to be sure and keep that vent clean, i.e. don't put your precious mink stole or anything like that on there, because it has to have enough ventilation to keep it the proper temperature. It's extremely critical with lithium-ion batteries, which this car has. And hell, there's all kinds of things they do. They heat it up, they cool it off to keep it the optimal temperature for your hybrid needs. The side-to-side couple distance is great. And you know what I love? You know my favorite thing right here. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. Yep, that's an excellent armrest. Got your built-in beverage holders. It's a very good height too. I can't remember what car I had not too long ago, but the armrest was like up here, and it was like, ooh, it was kind of awkward. This feels not lower, much more natural in place. You got your really nice map lights up here. I don't activate. There we go. Little LED action going on here. I like that. But look at this. There's quite a bit of room here. You got your own ventilation for your personal use back in the rear seat. And this seat quality is terrific. This leather upholstery. It's real strange. It's funny with Toyota, because you don't know a lot of times when you sit in it whether or not it's leather or whether it's like one of the Tex family of it's a new kind of, it's not really simulated leather, but it's very similar to leather in terms of its durability. It's a little bit better in terms of water resistance and things like that. I don't think it will last as long as leather will. That's one of the great features of leather, is how long it lasts. And this feels really durable, and it is very, very comfortable. And the seat back angle here is nigh on perfect as far as I'm concerned. And you do have your 60/40 here to access the trunk area, but you have to go through the trunk to open it that way, which is good. That's actually, for a security standpoint, that's great. There's no window shades in this model, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. Some of the other models, trim levels in this particular car, you might be able to have something as luxurious as a window shade. I never really talked about the front seat room, and it's great. There's not much to say really, because you got, even with this lovely sunroof, you have plenty of room here for even a really taller occupant. So that's the big thing about a midsize like this. This would never have passed as a midsize in the old days. This would have been called a full size. In the old days, I'm talking about the interim days, when we started being concerned about fuel mileage and things like that. We definitely had a class of cars that were called midsize that were much smaller than this. It was this car, it was the Accord, it was the, I don't know if the Altima was called the Ultimate yet, but we did have I know we had the Nissan Maxima. But those were all considered like mid-size cars for the most part, and the mid-size class has grown in terms of dimension. And now what's really starting to disappear is the full-size, the large class of sedans. And for some reason, I thought I remember hearing that Toyota no longer makes the Avalon, and I don't know if that's true or not. But the Avalon is just a larger version of this, basically. More room, more everything. But it's never, just like the Camry itself nowadays, it's never a floaty type of sedan at all. It actually handles reasonably well, quite well actually. It's painless and it's roomy. Camry, you know it's actually Camry. It's not Camry. But you know, in order to make it work along with my theme of Camelot that I've just decided to ascribe to this car for no reason whatsoever, other than I think I saw something on Lynn Redgrave or something. Anyway, but this is the Camry, a bestseller in the United States for decades now. One of the best all-around mid-sized cars ever made. And this hybrid version shows you what is possible with having such a great car to begin with and then putting in an incredibly fuel-efficient powertrain. Now, will they make a full electric version of this car someday? Who knows? Probably, but then again, one does not know for sure. I'm going to sit her back a little bit there. Here we are. But over time, the Camry's been a very interesting car to watch because a lot of times Toyota, especially for example with their trucks, they don't make a whole lot of big changes year by year. They tweak a little bit here and there, offer some different trim lines, different options, few things, but not any big change. With the Camry, they have been constantly upgrading and refining this car. If not every year, every 2 or 3 years, they put a lot into it. And this is the current generation. And it just takes and builds on what it's always been great about Camrys and makes it better. Much better. And I find it what really completes it is the hybrid power plant, because it just works so well. There's so many things that Toyota has gotten right over the years by just steadily refining the car all the time, and they're very careful about what is and isn't advantageous. So is there somebody coming? Nope. I'm going to deal with that just like that. But as you'll see in this corner coming up right here, this car handles very nicely too. It really does. It's no race car, and the Lexus version of this car is tuned further towards better handling and a little bit, but this is quite good. You know, the number one thing to get better handling out of your car, learn to drive. Yeah, I learned this long ago when I was working in the motion picture business, and you get to know people from every department on the massive city that is a film crew. And a couple of movies I worked on, we had some car stunts. They weren't like what is Fast and Furious type stuff, which is a film series I've never seen. But I do know they use a ton of computer graphics for everything now because it's so much safer to do it that way. But back in the day, a lot of the car stuff was just car stuff that was done practically, which is a term used to mean it's real. Basically. And they used to do some pretty amazing things with fairly lightly modified cars. because the drivers, the stunt drivers, were really good. And by the way, just for all you women out there, some of the best stunt drivers I ever saw work were women, and they were really, really amazing. Matter of fact, there was a Hyundai a few years ago when they launched their coupe, their big coupe. I can't even remember the name of it right off the bat, but they had a thing at the Javits Center in New York City during the press auto show when they were releasing this coupe, and they had these two stunt women come out and do all these things on stage. They were doing all these donuts and everything else on a very tight little area on stage. And and it just reminded me of all the women I've known that were great stunt drivers. But anyway, the bottom line of what I'm saying here is when you have a solid car like the Camry that has good handling, the driver matters more than anything else. If the driver knows what they're doing, they can make this car go very, very quick and deal with all kinds of curvy substructure, or what's the word I'm looking for? Substrate. That's what I'm looking for. No matter what the condition of the road is, the car can do pretty well. It's not a BMW or anything like that, but it can do a hell of a lot better than you think. And yet, you know, it has this persona of being a economical family sedan, which it is, but it can take some punishment, and especially if you do the basics. And the number one basic is, of course, getting good tires. And I haven't taken a close look at the tires, the OEM tires that came with this particular hybrid, because you have with all these hybrids, it's an interesting thing they have to deal with. They want to have the highest numbers that they can put on that Monroney and in their advertising to show how fuel efficient the car is. But if they put tires on that are very performance oriented, which means they're made of compounds that are stickier, stick to the road better, that tends to increase rolling resistance, which tends to lower gas mileage. You may notice this whenever you get, if you're a person that follows your gas mileage very closely, you may notice that when you change tires, get a brand new set of beautiful new tires that have very, very good traction ratings and everything else, you may notice your miles per gallon might actually drop initially. And the reason is because the tires are stickier, and they get better over time. They loosen up a little bit, and tire manufacturers are keenly aware that there's hybrids are a larger percentage of cars for sale now than they've ever been in the past. They're still not up there with the number of gas units, but they're there. This is why you pay attention when you drive, and you don't use things like heads-up displays. You're looking down to see how fast you're going, and you're taking your eyes off the road, even though they advertise like you're not. Now, one of the neat things about driving a hybrid is you can really polish your technique as far as getting the maximum amount of fuel efficiency out of it. And you learn that by playing with it, because right now I'm in I was in an electric mode, and then it just popped off because I gave it just a little bit of gas, which I can see on this display right here. But the moment you let off the gas, it pops back into EV mode, which is also going into regenerative braking mode, so that the electric motor is swapping over to a generator to help generate power to recharge the lithium-ion battery pack just beneath you in the back. And the more you play around with this, there used to be, we actually owned in my household a 2004 Prius, and I had a ball playing with that car. Some would call it the practice hypermiling, but I don't really call it that. But what you would do is you would do everything possible to you get into a whole science. All the nerds out there that are real hybrid people and electric people know especially what I'm talking about. Is there are times you don't want it regenerative braking, and you don't want, obviously, to have, with a hybrid, the gas engine on. What you'd love to be doing is coasting completely. And when you do that, I'm going to put up the cruise control here, including our adaptive cruise control. I'm selecting 2 car length distance from the invisible car that is in front of me. But anyway, as you're coasting along, you would get, ultimately, you'd get your overall mile per gallon numbers much higher, because nothing's happening as far as it's not dragging along. It's not recharging the battery when you're coasting completely, but it's not using the gas engine either, and it's not using the batteries at all to power the car. So you could argue that that's just as good as regeneration, because you're not using any electric power. Okay, fair enough. But to do that, it was kind of tricky, because you had to just perfectly balance how you touch the gas pedal in order to get the car to just coast. That was fun. I enjoyed that. With the modern breed of hybrids, can you do that? I don't know. I haven't. I don't think it's as easy to do that as it used to be. And I think the reason being, excuse me, is because the manufacturers are trying their own engineering to figure out what is the best way to get the maximum amount of fuel efficiency out of the car, based on how most people drive in the real world. So they've tweaked that, I think, a little bit. I think it's a little harder to go into full coast mode. But look at the numbers. Look at how much better. Look at how much better Toyotas have gotten. I don't even know what the current Prius is, but I think you regularly, the last time I tested one, which was I think 3 years ago. It's been a while since I've had a Prius, which is a shame, because they had just offered the all-wheel drive version of the car as well, and that car was just ridiculous. I did all kinds of things that weren't exactly conducive to mileage, and I still got over 50 miles per gallon with the car, and it drives great. It has plenty of power. That's the thing. Are you going to just drag race everywhere? I mean, maybe it's my own prejudice, because I don't find anything more boring than drag racing. I like racing that takes place when you have turns and you changes in elevation, because that's when the driver's skill really comes into it. And what is drag racing? It's just reacting as quickly as you can to the lights to go as fast as possible. Another thing that is wonderful about hybrids is I know a lot of you are annoyed by the fact that so many cars have engine stops, and you just find them annoying. And the thing about hybrids, and this has been true going all the way back to the Prius, the first Prius models, is they use the big electric motor to actually start the engine. There is no starter motor per se. So, given that, when you have that situation, and I'm going to adjust my cruise control here, the situation you're found with nowadays is you got all these, it's almost like commonplace to have engine auto start, unusual if you don't have engine auto start stop on it. Regardless of what tests you may read and everything else about it, really doesn't help. And all this controversy about, is it actually bad for the long-term life of the engine if you have, just ignore all that, because the fact is the engineers have decided this is the way to go, and that's how they're going to build the cars. So, but with a hybrid system where you have the big ring gear being turned by the electric motor, they start up really quickly and really efficiently when they're in their auto stop mode, whereas everybody else has a big starter. Regular gas engines have a big starter, with the exception being like the what's it called, e-torque Dodge Ram trucks. They have this big thing on it that generates power, that I believe that is, it has a very similar system to hybrids, even though, to the best of my knowledge, I know Jeep has now got an electric version of the Wrangler, and I've never understood it. Chrysler's been so far, through their various owners, and now it's Stellantis, they've always been way behind everybody when it comes to hybrids. and electrics. And I've wondered how in the world do they meet corporate average fuel economy standards when they basically just sell trucks that drink gas. Honest to God, I had a Grand Cherokee, the new Grand Wagoneer recently, and I didn't include it in what I said about it when I wrote about it, just because there was a lot of idling here and there and doing stuff. But I got 11 miles per gallon with that thing. And that's about what you're going to get in a lot of city driving. It's ridiculous in this day and age to get that bad of mileage. So I don't know how they get around this. Maybe they've just changed the rules. But I'll tell you right now, see these motorcycles going by? These are Harley Davidson Tour Glides, etc. This car gets better mileage than those bikes do. Guaranteed. I've ridden them. I've tested them. And unless they've changed something on these bikes, which I doubt they have, they still get the same mileage they always did. And this car gets better. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? I find it amazing. That's how far the hybrid system stuff has come. And I've got a 3-cylinder Triumph that I ride. That's my main motorcycle. I have a few others, but they may be asleep permanently. I don't have time to ride. But even it, in a good tank of gas, is about 41, 42 miles per gallon with it. It's a 676 cc's, I think it is. But this car gets better mileage than that. Man, it's starting to rain. I thought this wasn't supposed to happen for another 2 hours. And here all these guys are. Oh dear, I didn't bring any of my rain gear, did I? Oh boy. Good thing I'm incredibly tough. Well, I'll tell you, some bikers are so sensitive. I mean, I just said nice bike, and the guy thought I said something about his wife being some sort of levy or something. Well, fortunately, they couldn't catch me because they ran out of gas before they could get me. So, thanks for watching. The Camry Hybrid is one of my favorite cars just because it makes so much sense in this day and age. It's incredibly practical. It gets absurdly good mileage for such a roomy and delicious to ride in car. So give it a thought if you're in the market, huh? And also do me a favor and like and subscribe. And oh, if you have a teenage kid, just go to their computer and subscribe to it. They'll never even know what happened. I need a few more subscriptions so I can actually put a URL on this so people can find it. So anyway, you guys be careful out there, be safe, and we'll catch you next time.